Hello Nakama and welcome back to Wano Act 2. If y'all have been along on the voyage with me as we sail through the seas of One Piece and all of the various storylines that we've gone through so far, thank you my friends, and best believe we are merely one act away from being finally current. Wano, as we know from the last video so far, has been my favorite arc of the series, and for good reason. The animation is superb, the setting is brilliant, all of the Straw Hats are finally back together after so many arcs. Dressrosa and Whole Cake, I was truly split because I want to see all of the crew here together. But not only do we have our crew here, we have the scabbards of Kuzuki Oden, who we will find out in Act 3 about because I'm on that flashback and it is absolutely crazy. And additionally, we have some other members of the worst generation within Law and Kid. So guys, without further ado, let's hop right into Act 2 of Wano. Picking up from where we left off with Luffy and Kid in jail, we're briefly shown a snippet of Blackbeard on an island, and he encounters Gecko Moria with his zombie army with the goal of finding his friend Absalom. Absalom is not found and rather he was killed, thus allowing Shiru to have his clear fruit, and Blackbeard then invites Gecko Moria to join his crew. We see the Blackbeard pirates rising once again in power, now in control over an island that is lawless and full of piracy, but most importantly, Blackbeard's second-in-command Shiru now has an extremely powerful devil fruit. In my headcanon, given Shiru's position as a swordsman, that one day him and Zoro will face off in the final battle, as I think it's fairly clear that the Straw Hats will eventually collide with the Blackbeard pirates. Also, let's note, Blackbeard really does look the part of a pirate, being surrounded by women, money, and lawlessness. I truly love his aesthetic. We're taken back to Wano and we see Dogstorm and Ashura clash, and Ashura refuses to join the battle to avenge the Kozuki family as the past 20 years have left a large hole in his heart. Nami and Shinobu infiltrate a high-ranking official's house to spy on covert weapons and trade deals, and Nami and Shinobu's ninja activities really did make me smile, as Oda really does a great job demonstrating the art of ninja within Wano. Although Shinobu isn't the most active of ninjas as she is scared of sharp objects for some reason given that she's a ninja, I'm not really sure how that works given that I feel like ninjas encounter sharp objects all the time, but perhaps I'm wrong. Our two ninjas eventually escape, and Nami sees that Sanji opened a soba stand on the street, and Sanji has a giant line outside of his soba shop, a lot of women particularly, but some trouble arose whenever three thugs from the Kyoshiro family came to try to extort money from him, and also they weren't so happy about there being so many women in line for Sanji's stand, but that's kind of besides the point. Sanji refuses to do so, and as a result they hit a little girl's bowl out of her hand that Sanji just gave soba to, and we learn that this girl is Otoko, and this results in Sanji and Frankie beating two of them to the ground. The third one ran off and reports it to Kyoshiro, who then contacts Queen to send some assassins to take out the Soba Man. If there is one thing we know about Sanji at this point in the story, it's that he hates when people waste food and when women are disrespected or hurt. And right here, both of those things happen. Toko upon introduction has an interesting demeanor, and she's always smiling, and it made me slightly question the reason of this. She seems to only be able to express laughter and joy, but Oda, as Oda always does, upon the introduction of such oddities, will eventually explain it in depth further later on. We learn that Toko works for an Orien named Komurasaki, and from my understanding of an Orien, the profession is essentially a celebrity-esque high-class woman that people pay for the company of. As she was paraded through the streets of the flower capital, many men fell weak to their knees, and we see some of these men she had swindled who had now gone broke. Komurasaki looked down on these men and said she doesn't like the poor, which is a pretty interesting statement, but notably given the flashback of these men, they seem like bad individuals who would take other people's money, so this to an extent is criminal justice towards these individuals. But immediately after this we see in Amigasa village, Tama asks Momonosuke about his sister, and Momonosuke says he believes she is still alive, although now she would be 26 years old. Given the timing of the events with Komurasaki and now Momonosuke mentioning Hiyori, I had immediate suspicion that she was indeed Hiyori hiding in plain sight within the capital. We're then taken to Orochi Castle where he met with the agents of CP0, and Orochi demanded that they bring him Vegapunk. The relationship of the world government and Wano seemed that now, with Doflamingo gone, the government has to directly trade with Orochi, who is obviously unreasonable. The world government keeps digging themselves a deeper and deeper hole as the true criminals within this story, and not the pirates as the world government would make you believe. Robin, Komurasaki, and other geisha all participate in Orochi's banquet, and Robin eventually gets caught finding out information, and Orochi's ninja squad attacks her. But thankfully, Nami and Brook are there to help. Brook's interaction as a quote-unquote ghost or angry spirit going after the ninja did make me chuckle as he goes around haunting these individuals who were initially chasing after Robin. As Robin returns to the banquet hall, we see Orochi talk about the prophecy of Toki, who's Odin's late wife, and everyone believes this to be lunacy. After all, how could anyone believe that these ghosts of the past could somehow travel forward in time and now be here today to seek vengeance? But, in One Piece, things like that can happen. Everyone kept quiet though, despite believing he's a lunatic, minus Toko, who bursted into laughter, to which Orochi responded by trying to kill her, but he is stopped by Komurasaki, who refused to apologize for what she did, and Robin takes off with Toko to protect her as all of this ensues. Notably, in her refusal to apologize, she says she is the daughter of a samurai and thereby she won't back down. This further adds to the initial theory of mine that she is indeed Kazuki Hiyori, given that Odin is the greatest samurai Wano has ever seen. Upon this happening, Orochi transformed for the first time on screen to his 8-headed snake form, causing chaos, and due to Komurasaki's disrespect towards the Shogun, Kyoshiro strikes her down to prove a point that not even an Orion can be blatantly disrespectful to the Shogun. This causes Orochi to descend into rage as he fuses the woman that he seems to love and woman that he's so infatuated with die, and he chases after Robin and Toko, but Nami busts out Zeus and strikes him with a massive thunderbolt. I'm kind of surprised he was able to live that attack, given that this attack even damaged Big Mom, who is almost impenetrable to damage. So guys, I think it's kind of obvious here that Komurasaki wouldn't be killed here, and due to this staged killing, it led me to kind of believe that perhaps Kyoshiro could be an insider amongst the Shogun's group. Following these events, we see that due to Sanji's action against Kyoshiro's men, X-Drake and Page 1, who are from the Tobiropo, go to attack the city in efforts to find Sanji, the man who owns the soba stand. And despite the advice of Law, Sanji chooses to fight, and in doing so, we see him pull out his raid suit, and he chooses the title Soba mask despite Law recognizing him as Stealth Black from the Sora, Warrior of the Sea stories. Sanji's ability with the raid suit is that he can go invisible, which is what Sanji mentioned he wanted way back in Thriller Bark, as he's always had an obsession with the clear fruit, but clearly right here we can see that he doesn't need the clear fruit if he has the raid suit. Sanji, with his immense speed, his ability to fly, and become invisible makes quick work of both them, and they head towards Ibisu town. Sanji's ability seems super amazing, and his speed particularly is what is most notable to me, and with this new speed feat, it goes back to my headcanon that I've mentioned previously of Sanji's eventual fight with Kizaru. Sanji also with his new invisibility is likely to get into some mischievous voyeurism, but we will get to that later. Finally, we're taken back to Zoro on his lost adventures in which he goes through the region of Kibi with a man named Yasu. Yasu was enamored with Zoro, and as a result they traveled together and eventually went to Ibisu town where Yasu was from, and Zoro met all of their citizens who laughed and smiled despite their impoverished circumstances. What stood out to me was Zoro's questioning of Yasu always laughing, and Yasu told Zoro that only humans have the capability of laughter, and that we should be grateful for that and laugh as much as we can. Thanks Oda for the reminder to laugh more and smile more. Robin, Nami, Brook, and Shinobu escaped from Orochi Castle, and they went with Kanjuro to Ringo, where they talk about a previous Yakuza boss named Hyogoro the Flower, who lo and behold is now in prison with Luffy, Old Man Hyo. Brook also mentions that there is a road poneglyph on Onigashima where Kaido lives, which Brook will likely have to finesse like he did in Whole Cake Island, as he seems to be the man to steal the information from the road poneglyphs. After all of those talks, the women then go to the bathhouse and were taken back to Luffy's imprisonment. In Udon, Kid and Luffy run wild, moving giant blocks and doing tons of manual labor to eat a copious amount of food. Due to Kid and Luffy being rivals, they're even rivals in prison work, but due to the prison running out of Kibidango, the Vice Warden steps on Old Man Hyo before he tries to kill Luffy and Kid for eating all the food, and Kid and Luffy quickly took him out. In doing so, Luffy and Kid become heroes amongst the prisoners as Luffy carries Hyo out, who becomes a mentor to Luffy, and Luffy goes out of his way to make sure Old Man Hyo is fed and taken care of. We're then taken to Onigashima, where we find out that the Big Mom pirates were en route to Wano, and in response, King immediately takes action and flies towards them with his very unique pterodactyl devil fruit and hits Big Mom's ship into the sea, with Big Mom falling into the ocean. Given that King is the right hand of Kaido, I have immense expectations for King. His devil fruit seems amazing, and his outfit really does look similar to Shiru the Rain. I'm not sure if that means that he's from Impel Down, but he also wears a mask, so at the same time, I'm kind of confused on what King's whole objective is and what he means with his design, but I'm absolutely stoked, especially seeing how powerful a first commander is right after the events of Whole Cake. If he's on Katakuri's level, oh my god, I cannot wait for the fight to begin. As Chopper, Momo, Tama, and Kiku walk down the beach, they find Big Mom washed ashore with no memory of who she was or what her goals were with being in Wano. Our small little gang feeds Big Mom, and they take advantage of her lack of memory, telling her that for more food they'd have to go to Udon, and in doing so they would free Luffy. They then set forth towards Udon. I know a lot of people dislike the fact of Big Mom's memory lapse, as it doesn't make much sense, but Big Mom has grown on me significantly, and I enjoyed seeing her on screen even if she had lack of memory. And her interactions with Chopper being so absolutely timid and terrified with everything Big Mom would do, despite her being in a kind of innocuous state, was absolutely hysterical. Back in prison, we learn Eustace Kid has escaped and Luffy is questioned. And while Luffy was questioned, Old Man Hyo was attacked by the warden due to Hyo having so many meal tickets. The warden plans to execute Hyo, but Luffy attacks both the warden and vice warden, but due to the sea prism cuffs, Luffy is unable to do much to stop both of them. Amidst the chaos that's ensuing, Queen finally enters the scene, and Queen's introduction was pretty top tier in terms of One Piece introductions, with so much singing and dancing. Notably, Queen's song was extremely catchy with the zoomy, 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 and repeated line of "That's my kind of funk." I was all on board for Queen's music, and I wish we could see it more. Raizo bears witness to all of this, and he sees in a prison cell next to him that his ally Kawamatsu, who is another member of the Scabbards, is within prison, and he's doing well and alive, and will eventually see him break out to join the rest of the members. Due to Luffy's action against the prison, Queen puts Luffy and Hyo into a sumo inferno. In doing so, he removes the sea prism cuffs, but he puts a collar around their neck similar to the collar celestial dragons would put on slaves, in which if they tried to escape, they'd inevitably die. Whenever they tell Luffy that he's free, he has a really notable line, although very short. Luffy says, "I've always been free," and this just touches back to the continual essence of freedom that is the central theme of One Piece. Then we go through rounds and rounds of sumo in which Luffy views it as a training match to learn how to hit something without directly touching it, just like Rayleigh can do. And Hyo picks up on this and tells Luffy what he's trying is Ryo, and demonstrates his mastery of it while telling Luffy that he'll be his teacher. Ryo had a bit of differing definitions in the story thus far, as it's mentioned as being the same as armament hockey, but Wano's version, but Ryo seems to focus more on flow and channeling that energy into a direct point rather than a full coating of your body. That Ryo can go beyond just damaging the physical structure of something, but it damages it internally as well. Sanji, Usopp, Frankie, and Law reach Ibisu Town where they learn the news of Komurasaki's death, and they finally meet Yasu. And Yasu reveals that Zoro had left the chase after a thief who took his sword, and during their interaction, the group realized that Sanji had left as well. And guys, let's be honest, we all know where Sanji went with his new raid suit. Also, there seems to be a theme that Zoro in these arcs that he's been in gets his sword taken. We saw this within the quote-unquote fairies of Dressrosa, who were obviously the Tontada, and now once more he has lost another sword. Speaking of where Sanji left to, Nami, Robin, and Shinobu made it to the bathhouse, and as they bathed, Hawkins and Drake commenced a raid on the bathhouse and rounded up everyone with the crescent moon on their ankle to be a symbol of loyalty to the Kazuki family. Nami tried to hide behind Shinobu, but Hawkins spotted her and tried to draw her out, and in doing so, he disrobed her. This caused our favorite perv within Sanji, who's using his raid suit to be invisible, deactivates his raid suit and reveals his presence because blood was flying out of his nose and he was almost incapacitated from seeing the beauty that is Nami disrobed. Sanji does get our girls out, but Sanji arriving back is obviously beaten up by Nami and the girls due to his pervy nature, but I'm sure Sanji will very willingly take this beating if it meant seeing Nami nude. To be honest, I probably would too, and so Sanji, no judgment on my end. Meanwhile, Zoro chases the sword thief, a warrior monk named Gyokumaru, to a bridge in Ringo, and Gyokumaru had already returned Shisui to Ryoma's grave, and Zoro clashed blades with him to get it back. After fighting for a bit, they were interrupted as Komurasaki and Toko raced onto the scene, pursued by an individual named Kamazo the Manslayer. And Zoro intercepted Kamazo, who unbeknownst to the public was an assassin in Orochi's service, and was sent by the shogun to kill Toko for laughing. Komurasaki begged Zoro to help them, and he agreed in exchange for sake and food. You know, very simple exchange. Zoro's a very simple man. Zoro and Kamazo then commence an intense duel and were even until Gyokumaru decided to attack Zoro again with a cheap shot. With Zoro turning his back to focus on the monk, Kamazo was able to pierce him through the shoulder with one of his scythes. However, Kamazo was unable to pull it out, allowing Zoro to take it out and put it to his mouth, therefore allowing Zoro to use his Purgatory Onigiri, striking him down, immediately winning. However, despite the win, Zoro does find himself unconscious from the wound. This animation was absolutely so brilliant. Witnessing Zoro truly showed that even without his Shisui, that he can win at any cost necessary. I am such a big Zoro fan. In this arc, he has had so much time to shine. When Zoro woke up in a house in Ringo, he found himself being treated by Komurasaki, who is still presumed dead by the public. And Komurasaki reveals herself as Momo's younger sister Hiyori, which we anticipated, and the reason Momo went to the future and she to the past was in order to keep the bloodline intact, which is a big question I had in terms of why they would ever split up that I mentioned in Act 1. We learn a little bit about Hiyori's backstory, that while growing up she was taken care of by Kawamatsu the samurai, who is now imprisoned in Udon. After this giant information exchange, Zoro goes to sleep, and so do Toko and Hiyori, and we see Hiyori cuddle Zoro during the night, and I know I shipped them immediately, as I'm sure you did as well. Hiyori has a clear affinity towards Zoro. Meanwhile, Kinemon's group found out that Orochi had discovered the meaning of their secret messages, and in the Flower Capital, hundreds of Kazuki family supporters were rounded up and put into a large prison. After Sanji's group came to Ibisu, Shinobu blamed Law's crewmates for revealing the secret, causing Law to get into an argument with her, and Law then left in anger to save his crewmates himself. Yasu then came up with a secret message and asked that Shinobu's group tell Kinemon that he would be participating in the final battle. Though he spoke to them like they knew each other, Kanjiro and Shinobu were unsure of who he was. Notably, some of the older individuals within the story like Hyo and Yasu changed so much in their old age that people no longer know who they are. Yasu then went around helping various townspeople, and an old woman said that although his daughter Toko sent him money from the flower capital, he gave most of it away and was considered a saint by the townspeople. Here we learn that Toko is Yasu's daughter, which I guess makes sense given their very similar demeanors. Within the prison, Luffy and Hyo were left in the ring during the night, and we see Raizo and Caribou, who feed both Luffy and Hyo Queen's favorite food, the red bean soup. Hyo mentions that they possess a great opportunity in the prison because so many people were imprisoned for rebellion against Orochi, and that winning people to their side could greatly increase their number of allies. In the flower capital, it was reported to Orochi that Kozo had been caught, and Kozo was the man stealing money from the capital and giving it to the poor. And Orochi was surprised to find out the true identity of this individual. As a result, the shogun ordered immediately that the thief be publicly crucified and had it broadcast alongside Komurasaki's funeral. In the meanwhile, Brook found Zoro, Hiyori, and Toko in the cemetery, and he told them about the development with Kozo, revealing that it was Yasu. Toko immediately ran off to save her father, forcing Zoro and Hiyori to chase after her as they watched the broadcast of Yasu's crucifixion. Kanjuro and Shinobu finally recognized him as Shimotsuki Yasui, the former daimyo of Hakumai. Many years ago, Oden had hung around Hakumai after being exiled by Sukiyake, who was his father, and he was cavalier about becoming shogun as he believed Yasui to be better suited for succeeding his father. However, Yasui had none of that as he was intent on Oden living up to his father's challenge. Sometime later, Yasui had caught the 9 red scabbards stealing money and giving it to Oden. To their surprise, Yasui let them take the money with the command to serve Oden well on becoming his way to the next shogun. He told them to become educated and not bring shame to Oden. Yasui clearly had great development towards the Akazaya 9, and it's kind of unfortunate they couldn't recognize him sooner. Meanwhile, one of Holden's men set fire to Mount Atayama to get revenge on the thefts that were committed by Kinemon's group under the guise of the Mount Atayama thieves. And Ashura Doji led his men to attack Bakura Town. With them heading out, Kinemon and Inuarashi raced towards Bakura Town to intercept them, and as they reached the town, they watched the broadcast of Yasui's execution. Yasui revealed to the crowd that he was not in fact Kozo, and he only claimed that to get a public execution. He then claimed that he created the Kazoki family's secret message as a joke, and that the crescent moon tattoo was just a popular symbol from the past. This caused Orochi's subordinates to start having doubts, and as Orochi was being brought to the execution platform, he became enraged after hearing Yasui curse him. Orochi and his men then shot Yasui multiple times, and Yasui accepted his death as he had managed to change the Alliance's meeting place for the final battle and tell the prisoners about it. As Yasui fell down to the ground dead, the Ibisu town citizens who made their way to the capital started laughing profusely, and Zoro was appalled at this. However, Hiyori revealed to them that they were forced to laugh due to consuming smiles. She explained that 1 out of every 10 smiles grant animal transformation powers, and the rest forced the consumers to only express positive emotions. The pleasurers were the beast pirates who ate these defective smiles. The nature of the name Smile I always questioned, and here, 300 episodes later, Oda delivers. Orochi had decided to decrease the amount of suffering he saw in the country by mixing the leftover defective smiles in with the food that the leftover town citizens ate, resulting in them receiving the side effects and only being able to laugh. Several of the Straw Hats and Kinemon also learned this as they watched the broadcast, and in the flower capital, Orochi reveled in the laughter. He then saw Toko at the execution platform trying to revive her father with toad oil and prepared to shoot her. At that time, our favorite hot-headed duo, Zoro and Sanji, came in to protect Toko. It seems Orochi is really living in his own little fantasy world, believing that the citizens are actually happy due to this weird gimmick that he's imposed upon them. Zoro attacked Orochi directly but was stopped by Kyoshiro, and they clash as Kyoshiro is a fellow swordsman. Sanji faces off versus Drake, and the rest of the Straw Hats arrive to attack Orochi's men, and the city descends into chaos. Hiyori is almost captured once more, but Zoro saves her and puts her in his arms. Listen, I'm telling you guys, this ship is real. The Straw Hats eventually escape and were brought back to Law, who went to prison to find his crewmates, but was caught by Hawkins, who shows that if Law wants to kill Hawkins, he'd have to kill his crewmates, as their lives are now tied to his. We know Law would never allow his crew to be hurt, so I was on the edge of my seat, waiting for what would transpire. Death within One Piece isn't something that happens very much, and each time it does, it has long-lasting impacts on the story. From Ace's death and its emotional effect on Luffy, Whitebeard's death and how it led to Blackbeard's rise to Yonko, with Yasui, it's no different. Within his death, he saves the plan to avenge Oden, and in his dying words, he brings shame upon Orochi and exposes his paranoia to all of Wano. Yasui dies as a true Chad, with a smile on his face, without fear. We're taken back to Udon, in which they witness the execution, which enraged Luffy, and we see Kid and Killer dragged back into the prison as they were caught once more. This is the very first time I can really ever see Kid's heart break, as he hates what they've done to his best friend, forcing Killer to laugh, which has always been his greatest insecurity, something they'd kill others over. Kid, despite his outward bravado, cares deeply for his friends and crewmates, and wants nothing more than vengeance on Kaido. Here's what we find out that the person that Zoro fought was in fact Killer, which makes sense why it was such a close fight. Kid and Killer are then submerged into a tub, and the inferno resumes, but Big Mom arrives searching for the red bean soup, which Queen vehemently objects to giving her, as it's his personal favorite. Queen and Big Mom fight as Queen transforms into a Bronchiosaurus, but Big Mom very easily beats Queen and knocks him into a wall, unintentionally saving Kid and Killer and freeing Kawamatsu. The Beast Pirates tried to contact Kaido but could not get a signal, as Caribou had gotten the idea to smother the boss snail that facilitated communication outside of Udon. Big Mom found Queen's red bean soup container, only to become depressed as she found it empty. Luffy then accidentally revealed that he and Old Man Hyo had eaten almost all of it, causing Big Mom to attack them in a fit of rage, as she so wanted the red bean soup to bring back to Okobor Town and share it with the people there who showed her so much hospitality. Big Mom's attack pushed Luffy and Hyo towards the edge of the sumo ring, and they were eventually forced out. However, right before their collars went off, Luffy managed to rip them off. Using Ryo, we learned that in a state of such high intensity and high threat, that Luffy can activate it if it means saving someone he cares about. Luffy recognized that what he just did was the same thing that Rayleigh did to Cammy on Sabaody Archipelago, and Hyo stated that he had gone beyond projecting his haki, and went a step further to using haki to destroy objects from the inside. Hyo decided to have Luffy continue training with his life on the line by ordering him to protect him from Big Mom. Luffy tried projecting his haki to block Big Mom's attack, but was unsuccessful, and Big Mom hit him into a wall before chasing him around the entire prison mine. While Big Mom was chasing Luffy, Queen came up with a plan to stop her. When they returned to the clearing, Queen dove on Big Mom in his Bronchiosaurus form and hit her on the head with an immense force. Rather than harming her though, it restored her memories and she recognized Queen. However, she then fell asleep, and Queen immediately took action to have her restrained with Sea Stone, and he took her to Onigashima, leaving Babanuke in charge of restoring order. With the chaos dying, Luffy decided to take over the prison. The only annoying part I guess I can get regarding Big Mom being here is that her falling asleep seems a bit silly, and her being able to be chained while sleeping is also hard for me to fully get on board with. If you remember back to Ace trying to kill Whitebeard in his sleep, Ace couldn't even touch Whitebeard due to his presence even unconsciously, and I would expect the exact same thing in terms of Big Mom. Babanuke ordered the prisoners to subdue Luffy, and to Luffy's surprise they did so, as they told him that they wished no suffering by further rebelling against Kaido. Daifuku started shooting the prisoners with Excite bullets made by Queen that transmitted a contagious virus known as Mummy, and some of the guards went into Kawamatsu's cell to kill him. However, Raizo came in and threw the keys to Kawamatsu's handcuffs, as well as his sword, into his cell. This allowed Kawamatsu to free himself and repel his enemies. He, Raizo, Kiku, and Chopper then joined Luffy and Hyo in standing against the Beast Pirates, while Momonosuke and Tama, who were ordered to stay outside, snuck into the mine unseen. They were easily able to overpower their enemies, but they were threatened by the prisoners, who could transmit the mummy to them with just a touch. Luffy grabbed all the prisoners, pointing out that they were suffering even when helping Kaido's crew, and that joining his alliance's revolt would be their only shot at changing that. This won over the prisoners, and Babanuke attempted to shoot them with the powerful Excite shell, but Luffy foresaw this and tied up his elephant trunk, resulting in Babanuke being engulfed in the explosion. The prisoners then attacked Daifuku, and Udon was successfully liberated. Luffy's speech here was pretty poignant, as he mentions that despite him being a foreigner, why they couldn't get on board with what he's trying to do, that Luffy wants to liberate them from Kaido. Luffy throughout the story has continually progressed as a leader, and right here with this speech, we don't see many speeches of Luffy, but within this speech right here, we can truly see that he is growing up before our very eyes. Kid and Killer depart from the mine, but before doing so, Luffy asks them to ally, but Kid vehemently says no, that he would never seek an alliance again after what happened last time. As Luffy is treated by Chopper, Luffy tells Momo angrily to go to the prisoners because Momo is who they need. And Momo, in his true big step of leadership, delivers a fantastic heartfelt speech to the prisoners, requesting their allegiance and help in restoring Wano. This is really central to Momo's character arc. From what we've seen thus far within the story, all of the moments of Momo having to assume leadership at such a young age have been building up to this point. And if we've noticed thus far, just within Wano and Zou, all of the moments that have pushed Momonosuke to stand up in a position of leadership and speak have been Luffy egging him on. Momo's entire character arc is him becoming the next shogun of Wano, even at such a young age. On Onigashima, the Beast Pirates worked non-stop to feed Big Mom as the All-Stars squabbled amongst themselves about what to do with her. Big Mom asked King to join her crew as his race was one of the three not present in Tatoland, but he refused. Right here I was kind of confused because I'm not exactly sure, besides the Giants, who the other two remaining races are, perhaps the Skypians, but I guess Oda will answer that later on. But it really did excite me, kind of questioning what the hell King is. I just assumed he was a human. I don't know why he wears the mask, but perhaps he's not. Kaido then came and ordered for Big Mom's chains to be removed, and after his subordinates reluctantly obliged, he and Big Mom brought out their weapons and engaged in a clash so powerful it split the heavens, similarly to whenever Whitebeard and Shanks clashed. The two of them fought non-stop and all night, and the Beast Pirates were terrified of what might happen to Onigashima. Queen pondered escaping to return to Udon, as Queen is seen to be kind of a coward in terms of being around Big Mom, but he received a call from Babanuke, who reported that all had been settled in the prisoner mine, as he had been tamed with Tama's Kibidongo and was now thereby her servant. Before the introduction of Big Mom, I never fancied her as one of the strongest Yonko, but here she seems truly even with Kaido, which is absolutely crazy to think about. Sensei mentioned in one of his videos recently that if Big Mom was more attractive, she could be everyone's favorite female character and perhaps even Yonko. I am a reformed man and Big Mom is a top Yonko for me. I apologize to the One Piece gods for once believing she was so weak. At Bakura Town, Ashura Doji attacked Kinemon for setting him up. Kinemon gave a sincere apology, though pointed out that there was still hope to avenge Odin due to Yasui's final actions. Kinemon's apology was very emotional, and we can see how desperate Kinemon is to end Kaido and restore Wano. He needs Ashura. Ashura then took him and Inuarashi to show them something. He brought them to a massive graveyard in Kuri and explained that 10 years ago the samurai had all grown tired of waiting for the Kazuki family to return, and despite his wishes had set out to Onigashima to fight, where they all lost their lives. Deciding not to doubt the Kazuki family's reasoning for waiting 20 years, Ashura and his thieves brigade joined Kinemon's alliance. Ashura then took Kinemon and Inuarashi to Port Itachi, where he showed that many of the ships could still be used to sail to Onigashima. Kinemon was ecstatic to see this, planning for Frankie to get the ships in working condition. Kinemon was further overjoyed to find out that Ashura also had the blueprints to Kaido's mansion in his possession, and soon after received a call from Raizo about the fighters they had recruited in the prison mine. However, Raizo did note that they lacked the weapons to arm their allies with. Meanwhile, Law had been brought into prison after offering himself in exchange for his crewmates, threatening to sacrifice them to kill Hawkins otherwise. Beppo, Shachi, and Penguin found Nami in Ibisu Town and gave her a copy of the secret message that had been altered by Yasui. Nami noticed that he had drawn lines through the snake drawing and said he would show it to Kinemon regarding the new plan. Meanwhile, at the Enma Shrine in the forest, Zoro managed to cut down the ninja who pursued him and Hiyori. He and Hiyori then decided to go back to Ringo, with Zoro wanting to claim Shisui from Gyokoumaru and wishing to kill Orochi with his own hands. The next day, Zoro returned to the bridge and clashed with Gyokoumaru again, but their fight was interrupted by the arrival of Kawamatsu the Kappa. Hiyori tearfully reunited with Kawamatsu, but they were interrupted again as some beast pirate shot Gyokoumaru to get their weapons back. Zoro and Kawamatsu quickly started attacking the pirates, and Gyokoumaru ran away as he expressed joy seeing Kawamatsu the Kappa again. After we see the backstory of Onimaru the dog, which guarded the weapons, Kawamatsu finds all the weapons stockpiled, which is plenty of weapons to arm our allies with for our final battle. Hiyori told Zoro that he should leave Shisui with Ryoma's grave and offered to replace it with Enma, a memento that Odin passed down to her, which was the only weapon to have ever wounded Kaido. Zoro reluctantly agreed, though Kawamatsu had many reservations. In the town prison, Law had overwhelmed Hawkins and cut him up and told him to reveal what happened to his alliance with Kid and Scratchman Apu. Hawkins stated that Apu had been working for Kaido since the beginning, and Kaido wanted to recruit him, Kid, and Killer to join his crew. He had obliged due to having no chance of survival otherwise, but Kid and Killer fought until they collapsed. Hawkins wondered if Law had any doubts about his alliance with Luffy now they were in Wano, but Law gave no answer as he headed out his cell. Law told a mysterious person nearby that if their plan involved facilitating his escape, he would go along with it. Now it kind of makes sense what Kid said in terms of denying Luffy's request to ally with him whenever he was leaving Udon, and we see why. I wish we could see the flashback in the animation of Kid and Killer fighting Kaido. I'm sure it didn't go well at all, but given that it's a 2-on-1, perhaps maybe something could have happened, but at the same time as Kaido, I probably nothing did. Luffy continues his training and eventually meets up with the rest of the Straw Hats and Scabbards, and Zoro was presented with Enma, but it instantly drained a ton of his haki as Zoro would fight with Enma over who has control. As allies continue to rise, Zoro and Luffy trained, and we learned that Zoro's Wado Ichimonji were made by the same swordsmith, which is one of the reasons Enma seems to have an affinity towards Zoro. If this is an affinity towards Zoro and he's still getting his haki taken away from him, I'm kind of curious about the gimmick of this sword and whether the sword has a mind of its own. Ever since the initial mention of Ryuma cutting down a dragon in the capital centuries ago, I haven't been able to shake the feeling of some of the parallels that Zoro now has. Zoro, now being involved in Wano in the attempt to dethrone and behead Kaido, is now in possession of the very sword that wounded Kaido himself. Maybe some foreshadowing to come, but I could be wrong. On Onigashima, King reported to Queen that the numbers were coming back and Kaido and Big Mom were partying happily. They then announced that they had formed a pirate alliance and would resume trying to kill each other after taking over the world. This announcement was met with great shock. Meanwhile, on the cusp of the Fire Festival, Orochi received a report that revealed the alliance's new meeting place was Port Tokage and that Hiyori was alive and hiding in Ringo. With Big Mom and Kaido now allied, This poses even worse threats for our anti-Kaido crew. An alliance of two monsters whose strength seems neck and neck is absolutely fearsome, and damn it man, I can't believe we are so close to being caught up and likely seeing them all fight. Guys, we only have one act left of Wano, and given the current episode I'm on, I imagine within this month that I'll be completely caught up. Guys, I know this video was super long, but it was a lot of episodes, a lot of content to cover, so if you stuck around this long, I really do appreciate it, and let me know in the comment section below what you thought of Act 2 of Wano, and let me know if Act 3 is even better than Act 2. As always, guys, I appreciate you all being here, and I love y'all like family. I hope y'all all choose to smile today and laugh, as Yasu said, because we are the only people who can. So, guys, be greedier, and I will catch you all next time. The stakes of Wano have never been higher. Under the reign of Orochi and King of Beasts Kaido, all Wano seeks is liberation. 20 years in the making, the mission to avenge the Kozuki has not ended. Although a clouded sky, the shadows of the Akazaya 9 are ever more present. 20 years later, their spirits still unbroken make their final mission to avenge their leader, Kozuki Oden. And Act 2 concludes.